Hi, everybody. Welcome to the fourth official AMA for Matterless. Today with us are senior developer JD and our newly appointed CTO Robin. So today I'm quite excited to have both of you here with me because this is going to be our first public general AMA, and also it's going to be the first AMA where we have three members who are going to be talking, answering questions, hanging out with the community. Mimic7 asks, this form of white paper is very hard to read for people whose language needs translation. So it would be great if you could make a Gitbook version as well. So we're currently in the process of rewriting the white paper, and we're going to update it soon. Currently we have it at the live link, but what do you guys think about having a Gitbook version?
I think we should look into this. I haven't personally used the Gitbook before, but if this would help the community and people to get into the white paper more, we should look into this.
What do you guys think? We have a couple of people here in the chat. What do you think? What are some of the other languages that you think would be quite useful for our community?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends, how much you're getting for your effort in return, right? And where you want to spend your effort. I think what the person asking is getting to is that I believe on GitHub, you can just right click and then translate with Google. So it makes it easier for them to, read certain paragraphs, which might not be as easily to read and understand for them in English. But to be honest, I probably wouldn't go through the efforts and translating the entire thing. If you would do it, then probably, just the most common languages like Spanish and probably would go with Spanish. That's probably the one.
And
but
Chinese.
It all depends on your and it all depends on your target audience, right?
Or Thai, given the community that we have.
Yeah, we have a lot of Thai supporters thanks to a couple of people who came into our servers quite early, which is unexpected.
I would always do everything to tailor what you're building towards the audience which has supported you the most. So if you have a lot of Thai people in your server, then it might be a good gesture to translate it to them for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, thank you for that piece of info about Gitbook having a automated Google Translate function. That's quite useful. I think having a wiki-like structure to the white paper would be quite cool, and a lot of Web3 projects already have that. So yeah, let's look into that. Let's see. The next one is by Corn Dog. How long did it take you to develop the companions? Oh man, that's a big question.
Yeah. It's kind of multifaceted almost, because essentially it's taken as long as the app has been around, because we've been working constantly on the companion since. We originally got the AR companion when I started around September, and that was like the initial thing, and it just kind of stood there. And then we, wrote the AI behaviors for it. It got better and better. We've added new models. So obviously from the beginning we've been developing it, and then adding new companions, is a process that kind of goes along with that as well. It sort of depends on what you mean by companion. We can get a new 3D model with animations in relatively quickly, but it'll just do the same thing as the other one. So it's all about making them feel distinct and things like that.
Yeah. That's also part of it, that a lot of the work will make it easier to add more companions. This is gonna be reused.
Yeah, and there is a second part of this question. What's the ultimate end game for Matterless? Is the project a POC that turned into a larger vision? I would say definitely yes. We have big plans about what we want to do, and the companionship aspect of it is huge. It's so much more than just having a virtual pet. We have a grand vision that's about having a digital entity that you feel is real. Our byline is digital things are real, and we have thought about this and spoke about this and discussed and designed around this principle of making sure that people believe and are in sensory congruence about how things around them, even though they're digital, they feel real. So having a companion that you can hang out with and ask questions, and maybe it follows you around in different digital domains, is definitely part of our grand vision. But there's also a bunch of other stuff in there, which is gestural commands, voice commands, also having an AI aspect to it. So I would actually like to ask Robin, who has worked on a bunch of really cool games before, and he used AI, procedural AI, for animations, for different aspects of creating a game, a roguelite. What do you think? What is your long-term vision for what Matterless could be?
Of course, it comes down to many different aspects of how to make something feel real, and part of it is really in the details, both of all the movements, like real animals. They don't just follow a fixed curve. There's small counter movements before every movement, and all these details need to be ironed out. And then it comes down also to the behavior, which is of course really complex in a real animal. And to really catch that feeling, we're building the base in order to catch all these details into the behavior and the movements of the animal. And then when it comes to AI, there's a lot of new technology going on. Well, not super new, but new in this domain, I would say, within apps and games. And that's something we have experience with, and that we would like to look into more of how we can use that to make better behaviors.
Josh Nomics asks, wondering if you've had any plans to license your AR tech and sell to other developers. Well, actually, we are using AR tech, which is made by our sister company called Auki Labs. And Auki Labs is producing a software developer kit for everybody who wants to develop AR content on a platform which allows for things like instant calibration, which allows you to precisely position an object in AR. Also, we have hand reconstruction, 3D hand reconstruction, which allows us to have, through computer vision, to have a hand which can interact in real time on any baseline mobile device with an object which is in AR. So it's a virtual object, a matterless object, as we call it, but still real. And the fact that we can have instant calibration allows us to have a session with multiple participants. We had a session with up to 50 participants and around 500 bots, which were all able to see the same thing in the same place. So this is all technology developed by Auki Labs. And we would love to have developers. So if anybody here is a developer who's interested in doing stuff in AR, please get back to us and we will give you an opportunity to try it out and see what we were doing. How are your experiences with using the Auki SDK so far, Robin?
So since I started, we have already upgraded to the newer version, and there is a lot of amazing technology that enables, for example, the instant calibration is huge, and I haven't seen this anywhere else. Something similar I haven't seen how to make this so simple and easy to use. And I think this is something that can really enable new types of experiences that could not have been made possible without this. And I feel really excited about the technology that is being done there.
Yeah. One thing nice as well is because of the connection between us and Auki and how close the companies are, right, is essentially instant on-demand support. So not only will they help us with issues that we have essentially right away, which you wouldn't get normally from a third-party library developer, but at the same time, like, we can help them make their SDK better by providing them feedback on things that we might need or things that other companies might want. So it's a lot of back and forth in the process working with Auki, and it's a pretty good experience.
Yeah, we work very closely.
Yeah, in fact, since Robin came, we decided to create, based on the Auki SDK, a sort of a modular framework for some parts of how Matterless works as well. Okay, cool. So let's see. Next one is Trap Thought PH. I've seen 2 people use the shared AR, but theoretically, couldn't multiples people such as small party? So Can more people use the shared AR app, more than 2? Absolutely. So we had multiple tests, which are quite fun.
I think I've personally had 5 or 6 devices connected to the same space. Not just in Aoki, but like running the Inkos app, running the pets. And then a friend of mine here in Hong Kong is the actual load test engineer at Aoki. And I know he said they're testing, upwards of 50 users connected at once. That was a little while ago, so I don't know how much they're doing now, but it's like a pretty good sized amount of people.
Yeah. So our experiences currently are seamless and pretty scalable. So we host sessions with up to 50 people and bot sessions with hundreds of bots. And the only thing that you require to join a session within seconds is scanning something called a lighthouse, which is a QR code which allows you to enter a AR space that's been made. Okay. So the next question. Yeah, Robin, please.
The more, the merrier. It's really much fun to be more people in the AR space.
Yeah. So we're currently working on a prototype for an AR toy, which we are calling Florit. And what you can do in this experience is you can race a tiny hover car on any surface, and you can bump them into each other. And if you bump the car on the side, it's going to explode and you win the round, and then you can respawn and do it again. And it's been pretty fun. Like everybody I showed it to, we play for like 5 minutes. I say, okay, I gotta go, and they're like, no, can we play a bit more? So I think we're on the right track. For this.
That one is really more fun if you're more people. It becomes chaotic.
Yeah, I imagine like 10 people trying to. It's gonna be like one of those electric bumper cars, that had the line which is connected to the ceiling where they have the electricity in the music park. Yeah.
Except you actually explode.
Yeah. Exactly. More explosions, more real experience. Voyage Bay Explorer asks, I apologize for this. For what we have a karma leader for in the app, will there be some rewards for leaders? So karma leaderboard is a way for us to keep score who is spending time with the pet and keep taking care of it. But I see you guys are eager, so I'll let the JD and Robin to talk about it a bit more.
Yeah, I think one reason is it's nice to see how you're doing relative to other players. You can get a sense of what other people are doing in the app, and also it is a kind of a way to part of a way to incentivize you to take care of your animal better. You'll get this score. You can, and then I know there are some. We talked about doing some design stuff further down the line. I don't have too many details can share about that, but it's mostly just a way to sort of track your progress against other users. If you do a really good job for a long time keeping your animal happy, then that's reflected on how well you're doing, compared to other people. Robin, go ahead.
Pretty much that. And also would like to hear suggestions from everyone here. And for example, I'm myself a big fan of games like Path of Exile and Diablo 3, and they have something called ladders or seasons. That is potentially something to be interesting to look into, like should we reset this from time to time, or like there are open questions, open ways. Would like to hear feedback.
Yeah, what about you guys? What do you think? What would there be? How could we utilize the Karma leaderboard game system?
Yeah, I mean, just as I said earlier, anytime you have an opportunity to measure who's supporting you and to what degree, then you should always go out of your way to make sure that you reward those people. And how you do that, that's going to be up to you guys. But I would always make sure that those supporting you most also get rewarded the most. We pretty much followed the same principle in building VVV, and that has allowed us to, in my opinion, build one of the most tightly knit communities out there.
So yes, what are some of the ways in which you feel you have built this tightly knit community?
Well, you can measure it from the engagement of our AMAs, for example. So we have weekly sessions in our voice chat, and we usually have like more than 10% of the entire server join in. And then afterwards, we have a couple hundred listening to the recording on Spotify. And the average normally in other communities for AMAs or voice chat sessions is like between 1 or 3%, or sometimes even lower. So it really shows in the engagement you're getting. And, especially when you talk about a game or gamification, you want to incentivize activity, right? So, and those rewards, those rewards can be merely symbolic, right? So, for example, if you look at the different PFPs which come from our community, you see the sharks, for example, and those sharks have been the PFPs where people had to put in the most effort to get them. And initially it was more like a symbolic thing. Now we have attached a utility to it as well. And now on the secondary market, you will see that out of all the sharks which are in circulation, there's only one listed. And that one is listed for 15 ETH. And the regular dolphins, for example, where people didn't have to put in as much effort, they are trading for around 1 ETH. And then we have the whales, where the qualification was not activity or contribution, but it was merely proving proof of funds, or also proving a certain amount of investments and the opportunities which we have arranged. And these have been sold more, although I would have expected those to trade at a higher price. So what we've now seen in hindsight is that those people who had to work for the NFTs, they don't want to sell them. But the other ones who maybe paid more or had to provide proof of more liquidity, they are not as much attached to the NFTs which they received.
I think that in a way, the Karma leaderboard, the original idea that we had was that this is the only stat that you can't influence by getting some sort of pack or like buying an in-app currency. We want the Karma leaderboard to be a reflection of how well you take care of the creature. So in future iterations where we're going to have multiple different functionalities and features, you will be able to play with the pet, train it, take it for a walk, do all of these things. So your Inco, your incorporeal, or your Inco as we call them, is going to have multiple ways in which you can show to it how much you care about it. And then you can show off the fact that you're caring for it online.
What you probably also want to do is set the mechanics up in a way where it cannot be automated, or it cannot be botted by someone. You want to try to keep it as genuine as possible, to not punish those who over time get like an emotional attachment to what you're building.
Yeah, of course.
This is an important aspect. This is something we will be looking at.
Yeah, we definitely want people to be emotionally attached to the things we're making. We're emotionally attached to it as well, trying to build it. All right, thank you so much for your suggestion. Is there anybody here who wants to ask a specific question?
What are your plans on generating the first revenues or bringing the first product to market where people can potentially pay to buy the game or play to interact with the Matterless pets? Like, what are your go-to-market strategies, and when do you expect to have actual cash flow or an actual business model to show for?
Yeah. So according to our roadmap, and we're pretty much on point with that, we're going to have the app in the App Store for iOS before Christmas this year, so sometime Q4 this year. And the way in which we envision the app to work is we want to offer it to as many people as possible. So unlike a lot of other projects which are Web3 projects, we are aiming to get as many normal mainstream everyday users to engage with the app itself. And there's going to be ways to monetize by offering certain objects, toys, and accessories that the pets can have in the in-app store. So that's for us, in a way, this is the best way we think we can engage with most people, because a lot of these crypto games, Web3 games, and I'm sure you guys are aware, are not really that fun to play. Most of these play-to-earn games feel like work. They feel like a job. And, I haven't still seen a crypto game that I enjoyed. Maybe you guys have. If you have, please let me know. I would love to try it. But we're going for a more mainstream approach on making sure the app is available in the App Store. Anybody can download it, and we're going to offer multiple things that you can buy and use in the app itself. So that's the first iteration of it. And then on top of that, we have a bunch of new projects, prototypes that we're working on. Currently, we're working on 5 other projects. And they are a wide range of different experiences. For instance, one of the iterations that we're working on is the AR bumper cars, which if you're following our socials, you have already seen some videos of. If you haven't, please go and follow our socials and you'll find them. And of course, this is just one of the ways in which we can engage with this social AR design principle that we're currently putting our heads around.
I can add also that the first focus is to make the apps very fun and attractive, and you want to use them. And there are things to do. You can enjoy your time in the app. And after that comes, however, we can monetize on it. But the priority is to make the app super nice to use.
It sounds like the app itself won't have a Web3 component in it.
We want to be able to give the experience to almost anybody. We believe that onboarding people who are not really crypto savvy at this point is going to turn off a lot of potential users of the app. So we are thinking about a way in which the tokenomics, because we do have a token, and of course you are aware because you guys are our backers, we believe that the idea is to make sure that the app itself is a fun to experience, fun to play experience. And then on top of that, there's going to be an opportunity for people who are crypto savvy to have a crypto wallet in the game itself. And then, of course, when the people who can and who want to will have some of these functionalities that are giving others, people who are crypto savvy to be able to, trade, stake, etc.
I think that's the right approach. And the reason I've been asking is because I've seen a gaming studio, which is called Gunzilla, work on one of their titles. And they've made it their mission to make it appealing to regular players. And, one of the backlashes which they got from the general audience was that they accused them of hiding the fact that they are using NFTs, just because it's not it's not obvious that they are using Web3 on the back end. So just something to bear in mind is that crypto still has a bad connotation to it, and even if you don't make it obvious that there's a component of that to it, you still might receive some mixed feedback from people who do not understand the benefits that those integrations actually entail.
Well, NFTs are going through a really rough time right now. The optics on NFTs is catastrophic. But I personally believe that this is a cycle, and with time, the NFT functionality will become more clear. The actual basic functionality that it allows. I remember when I read about NFTs for the first time in, I think it was end of 2016 or 2017. And I was like, well, this is amazing. This actually, my background is I'm an art historian, and I have a lot to say about what's a copy, what's a facsimile, is something that's a copy is equally worth. And people have been thinking about this for hundreds of years. But with the NFT, we really got an opportunity to see that we can create unique digital assets, and it definitely has a value. Unfortunately, currently it's taken over by speculators and people who are just wanting to sell something at a higher price than they bought. So the entire NFT technology is kind of held hostage by the greater fool theory of trading.
Yeah, that's a very accurate statement, to say the least.
Yeah, and Damir, kind of to go off what you said about how we're handling that sort of stuff in our app, right? Like, I'm the one of the senior engineers here, and I don't think I've ever thought about crypto, while building it, because my job at first is you build a fun and engaging game to play. That's what I'm focused on, right? And if the game is fun and the game is engaging, then the crypto stuff and the monetization and all that other stuff is so much easier to do. You have so many more options, and then and kind of to talk about what you said, where it's not, we want to make it appealing to people who don't understand NFTs or crypto as well, because you want them as part of your base, right? So it's something that should be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's open in there if you want to use it, but it's not something that you need to be an expert in to understand how to use the game.
Yeah,
and I think that's the right approach. I think the usability and user friendliness has to come first. If you look at all the majority of the other games out there, they are not only user unfriendly, they're also not fun to play. And the game by Godzilla, off the credit, we saw some of the confidential footage, and it really was one of the first ones which looked like an actual game and like something people could actually play and enjoy. So that's why we made an investment in them as well. And I like to hear that Matterless is, going to position itself on the front end to look like a fun game. I think that's really the essence and the most essential step to get mainstream adoption.
I want to talk a little bit about the grand vision that we have for using AR as a technology. I would say that current AR iterations of experiences that people can have is actually not augmented reality. It's more like an augmented hallucination, because if you have people who can't see what you see in AR while you're in a public space, you just look like you're insane. Like, you look crazy. You're like waving your arms around, pointing at things nobody else can see. So I actually think that augmented reality currently is a misnomer. Augmented reality can only become real when it's social. And this social aspect is what we can do with our patent pending tech, with having instant calibration, also with employing your hand to interact with these objects. And once you can do that, then we really are not talking about creating an AR game. We're talking about creating new human behavior. We're creating a behavior that's never been possible before, in which we can upend the bandwidth at which people communicate, because instead of communicating with words or messages, they're communicating with images and movement. So now we have a completely new playground where we can paint the world with emotional context. And here is how does this affect the Matterless app experiences? It's because there's this distinction between toys and games. And anybody who's into game design, you can stop me or add something here. I would love to hear your take. But in my experience, the idea about having toys is very different from having games, because toys have no rules, right? You take a stick can become a gun, it can become a sword, it can become a telescope, anything you want it to be. And because you don't have this extrinsic set of rules, right? Games have explicit rules. If you're playing chess, you know how you need to win, right? You have very certain ways in which you can get to the end point. But playing with a toy is exploratory. It's not goal-oriented. So these are two very different modes of consciousness and thought patterns, and probably they even have some different neural chemistry. So What we want to do is we want to create experiences where people can share this together and then explore. So this is why we're not creating winning terms, right? So we have a karma leaderboard, which for some people is going to be very interesting, but maybe for some people it's not going to be interesting at all, because all they want to do is they want to interact with their pet. And I would like to see that too.
Yeah.
I know.
Stuck.
No, I think what you said is,
sorry.
what you said is very accurate. There's, to me, currently there's no real AR, right? Just as you said, it looks like a crazy person because only one person can see it. I would be curious to hear, what do you think has changed in terms of your competitors' landscape? Like, do you see anyone like offering or potentially offering something in the future which comes close to the shared AR experience that you guys are offering?
I won't call them competitors because they're not really trying to do the same. On the surface, it looks like they are. There are other AR pet applications that are in development, right? There are other companies attempting to do shared AR, but I don't think they're essentially trying to develop something more traditional. Their synchronization tech either doesn't work or is not close to what we have, and I think that what we're trying to accomplish with the design of the pets and the overall core goals, the key goals of the Inkos app, right, is different than what one of our competitors' games might be trying to do. With the believability of the Inko, the core kind of emotional bond we want you to form with that forms kind of the basis of everything that we do. Yeah, and I think that's pretty unique to us. So I wouldn't say there are any direct competitors. There are other projects that may look the same on the surface, but I don't think they're the same at their core.
So if you don't mind me asking a direct question, what are your thoughts on something like Dogami, for example, where, on the surface, it looks like something that could be similar, right? But then at a second look, they don't, the AR experience which they offer really isn't an AR experience. But as far as I can tell, they've done a pretty good job in attracting big audience of dog lovers. And, I think, looking at your server and your overall engagement, I think in those areas you might be a little bit behind, right? So even if someone else has a worse product, or, even a product which is not even remotely close to what you're offering, how do you plan on catching up on the community building aspect, or maybe on the marketing itself?
Well, we actually have our head of marketing here also on the call. But here's what I think. So first of all, you asked us, is there any direct competitors? If you want to do AR and you're not doing shared AR, you're not doing AR. You're creating a camera filter.
True.
Okay? You're creating a camera filter, right? So, if we want to think deeply and critically about what makes something feel real, we're talking about human perception, we're talking about connectedness. And I think that AR is the interface of the future. So we can't really perceive things. If reality is something that we need to perceive together and agree on. So we can't have a shared experience if we don't have that. All right. So that's the first part of the answer. The second part of the answer is, yes, Dogami has done a really great job with marketing. And you know what? They sold a lot of NFTs. Good for them. But I still haven't seen any in-app footage of them actually using AR technology. I've only seen really well-produced videos of dogs on skateboards, etc. And also, I would like to ask you a question. How do you know that they're dog lovers and not just crypto people? Because it is a web project.
Yeah. so it's true they have a large fraction of their server is indeed more interested in the airdrops than anything else. But I admittedly I haven't followed them since their IDO. But we invested like $25,000 in Dogami, and I can't really judge what's going on today, but in the initial phases, like right before the IDO and afterwards, that there was a sentiment around everyone being in for the same vision. Everyone loving dogs, and everyone also being incentivized emotionally to hold the NFTs simply because they have an emotional attachment to the dogs, right? And obviously the question then becomes at some point, how long is that going to work out if the actual product is not going to deliver in accordance to the expectation of the audience? But I mean, it's really difficult to make statements around that, because currently in the crypto space, that's really all we see, right? We see people promising things and other people being drawn in and buying into the vision. And I think it takes probably 1 or 2 years for all that to be flushed out, and for more real products like Matterless to actually shine and break through some of the noise, which is preeminent in this space.
Thank you. We appreciate you saying that. It's something that we also believe. So when people ask us, when token generation event, we say we're building the tech, we're not interested. And if you look at the vesting period for a lot of startup team members in Silicon Valley, it's still 4 years. So to build something like this, we can throw a lot of money into marketing. But what that gives us is exactly what you said. We have a bunch of people who are super hyped about getting something very special, and then it just turning into another project on the market. So we're very, very careful about this. And the reason why we still are kind of in stealth mode when it comes to the engagement that we have on our server is that what we want to do is we want to show you, our backers, that we're working on it, that we're constantly building something. We have 4 to 6 week sprints, which allow us to get new features. And recently the new build has hand recognition in it. So hand reconstruction and hand recognition are in it, and you can now actually interact with the pet. This is something that JD has been working on. And, I think this is pretty phenomenal. A lot of people don't get it. A lot of people think this is just a thing that you can already do. Because when you watch something like Iron Man and you see him, gesturing in the air, and he's doing things and zooming in, you can't really have that experience at all, because first of all, you are a viewer of a movie and you see what he sees. But actually, with the tech that we have today, that kind of view where other people can see what he's doing in AR, it cannot be done. As far as I know, we're the only ones who can do that. That's pretty big.
I know. It took me 30 seconds to understand what you guys have. I mean, and that's the reason why we jumped on right away. And I'm still sold on what you're doing, and I am also impressed that I feel a little bit potentially like Elon Musk when he first started to build Tesla, right? No one wanted to have electric cars, and now that we have them, everyone is trying to catch up. And I think it might be very similar with Matterless and Orky.
And a note about competition and such. This whole space of AR is so much going on, and it's very new still. And this is why we need to stick to our vision. We're not competing with others specifically. We're pursuing our vision, and we have to focus on that, because we don't know what will happen with everything else.
Well said. Yeah. There's a ton of people who are trying to build, and it's very cool. I believe that 2020s are the decade when AR is going to hit mainstream finally. As someone who read Snow Crash when I was 13, not when the metaverse hype started, I'm really looking forward to seeing some of those visions. come to life. So I follow a bunch of things that are about fashion, that are about building tools, that are about decorating your space. But so far, all of the things that I've seen, they don't have the capability to do it in a shared experience. AR is not in a good space right now. What we currently call AR might not deserve its title. And, we're trying to build that. And in a way, maybe some of these big companies, like Google, like Amazon, like Apple, they're building it by creating a computer vision virtual twin, digital twin of the world. And what they want to do is they want to say, okay, you want to have AR? Cool. We need to see everything that your camera sees so that we can place an object into your space, because we have this map of your space somewhere on our servers. And what we're going to do is we're just going to compare where stuff is, and then we're going to place something in space. We circumvented that problem completely. So
I might have a maybe also like a little bit of a political question, but do you think there's a underlying agenda why they want to scan your bedroom and not just follow the solution that you guys are offering?
What do you think? Why do they want to do that?
Well, I would assume it allows them to collect more data, right? Or maybe more. Maybe not more data per se, but more sensitive data, maybe in spaces where they would normally not be able to get in.
No, this is of course only up for speculation, and it's up to each one to form their opinion. But I wouldn't feel too comfortable with streaming my bedroom and my whole apartment to other big companies. The history of what has happened with sensitive data in the previous years, so I could choose.
It's not the fact that data is being collected, it's the fact that the collection of data is nothing you can do about. So if you have a decentralized... So here's the thing. One of the ways in which the Auki SDK is working is what it does is it creates interoperable decentralized domains, meaning that what you can do is you can scan let's say the inside of your apartment. And once you do that, you can let anybody, you can store it on a decentralized server by yourself. If you want, there's going to be a service, software as a service, platform as a service, where you can probably store that, and we will offer that too. But here's the thing. You can give access to whoever you want because you own the copy of that data. And we don't plan to store that. And I think that having a decentralized interoperable domain, a space that can be entered only by people you allow to enter, is the future of having any kind of digital twin, really. And saying, is it political? I would argue that every act is political. Everything we do is political because the decisions that we make influence people that we don't think about and know about. So if we make a decision to create a technology which uses a centralized server, well, eventually that's going to turn into a mega corporation which is going to hoard data. So one of the principles of Web3, which I agree with, is the fact that you can have certain aspects of your experience somewhere on your own. Like you own that data, you own the access to that data, and you should own the access to that data. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But do you want big companies to know if you still look at your wife the same way that you did when you just started dating or you just got married? Because they will know. And husband, right? So it's, Robin recently had a baby. I would be very freaked out if I heard Robin say, hey, you know what? I just got this offer for an outfit that's very cute for my baby because I'm a nerd, I'm a gamer, and it just suggested this thing to me. That's really creepy. And you can already do that just based on the amount of stuff you buy online. So imagine what happens when you have eyeballs. Not actually eyeballs, when you have algorithms looking at what you're looking at all the time. It's indeed a very political act. Even if it's, in today's world, this is, this greedy capitalist concept of just making profit, but it's very much a political act.
Yeah, I think, you're going to fight one of the battles the entire blockchain space is going to fight sometime in the future when it's going to be does decentralized stablecoin succeed, or are we going to have a centralized US dollar, centralized euro, and so on? I think there's pretty much everything which is disrupting the banking system currently, or anything which is disrupting the current government structures. All of those projects are in for a very tough battle somewhere down the line, because you're going to have to battle legislation, big institutions, and I think it's going to be exciting, because I think that teams like you are driven by doing the right thing, and I think coincidentally doing the right thing is also going to lead to the better product eventually. And it's going to be very interesting to see once the other companies try to catch on with their digital twins and doing it with their underlying agendas. I think that's going to lead to a worse product and a worse consumer experience, and then it really becomes a battle of adoption and how educated people are, and whether or not they're going to be aware of the benefits which come with owning your own data and retaining your privacy, and most importantly, retaining your freedom.
What we need to do as a people, we have to come together and propagate the right memes so that we can influence how we use technology, because the basis of society, culture, and civilization is teaching other peoples how to teach. So what we need to do is we need to spread good memes. And if you want to know more about, we're running out of time. If you want to know more about the memes that we want to create, which is by far our primary principle in building both Matterless and Auki Labs, is listen to a podcast that we're just recorded. It's called the Cyberdelic Podcast, and it's going to be out soon. And one of the cool things about it is you will learn more about what is the memetic foundation of our company and what we're trying to build. So unless we have any more questions, I'd like to finish off here. What about Rob and JD? Do you have anything you want to add?
I think you were just saying about privacy, right? And we should be careful about how we use that information and what we share. But then, just earlier you shamed me for not having a Twitter, and I just think, I was trying to just protect myself, and but no. I mean, in all seriousness, I think that stuff like the obviously for the AR to work, we do use the AR scanning of the room, but it's not like any of that gets stored, right? It's purely just Vertex data so that we can align things, right? And I honestly think if anybody at the company, anyone at Matterless or Auki suggested any sort of feature that involved, using someone's data in a way that violated their privacy, I think they would just be instantly fired. I mean, I don't think that's anything that is remotely on anybody's minds here, right?
I would, if we have a few minutes, really like to share a short story about the shared AR and how I realized how big this is. That was when we had a team meetup a while ago. I was using my phone with AR, interacting with something, with a pet. And then another person recorded me, tried to say, look how silly it looks like when I'm doing this on my own, because he didn't see the same thing. But then the fun part was that when I looked at his phone to look at the recording of me, my brain just expected to see the pet in front of me, like on his recording, because my brain was so into this. And then it kind of breaks the immersion. I had to stop for a while when I look at his phone. Like, oh, wait, it's not there. You just assume that you would see it. So, of course, we want to see the same things.
Yeah, well said.
This kind of thing happens all the time.
Yeah, it does. And the only reason why this is happening is because nobody's offering an alternative. And, guess what? This is what we're building, really. So if you'd like to know more about making digital things real, and creating shared augmented reality, check out Matterless.com and our Medium blog. And you can find the links to our socials on the website, or you can follow our posts in the social media intersection channel on our Discord that you know about. You also can get beta access to our Incos app by supporting Matterless on Patreon, www.patreon.com/Matterless. And you will also get Discord benefits and support a fantastic charity every month. So, to everybody, much love, and don't forget to spread good memes.